Okay, we'll start. So attendees are join us.
Welcome everyone. We're going to start in 1 minute this panel between Mexico, 5 cities of Mexico and the Bay Area. 1 minute. Okay, we can start now. Welcome everyone again. Good morning to some of you in San Francisco and Tijuana. Good afternoon for all of you in Mexico and here in Washington. On behalf of the U.S.-Mexico Foundation, welcome again. I think this is a big opportunity to understand better 5 cities in Mexico and obviously the Bay Area as a region in California and the U.S. Thank you, Sean Randolph, for this collaboration with the U.S.-Mexico Foundation, with Stanford, and with many other institutions represented here by our panelists. In the U.S.-Mexico Foundation, we believe the promotion, the economic promotion, nowadays, in this moment, it's so important to take it from the cities, from the state, and not only from the governments. The cities are the best promoters of their land, their capacities, their abilities, their talent, their technology. So in the objectives of the cities are in attractive investment, are in creating employment, are very interlinked with our neighbor in the north. US and Mexico have so many synergies, and now with the USMCA, a window of opportunity is open for new developments, for new opportunities. That's the objective of this panel, to talk about opportunities, future opportunities, and how a region, the Bay Area region in Silicon Valley, can interact in a better way with 5 major cities in Mexico: Tijuana, Ciudad Juárez, Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City. With that, I'll give the word to Blas Perez Enriquez from Stanford. Welcome, Blas.
Thank you, Enrique, and thank you to our partners in co-sponsoring this exciting event, the U.S.-Mexico Foundation, the Bay Area Council Economic Institute, the Government of Mexico through its embassy in Washington, and the Consulate General of Mexico in San Francisco. The organization of this webinar was triggered in part by a collaboration between Stanford and the Bay Area Council Economic Institute through our Mexico Clean Economy 2050 project. The Institute was asked to help us assess the current level of connectivity between the San Francisco Bay Area Silicon Valley innovation ecosystem and 2 emerging innovation clusters in Mexico. Our neighbors, the state of Baja California and the cities of Tijuana, Mexicali, and Ensenada, on the Mexican side of the binational region known as Cali Baja. The state of Nuevo Leon's capital city, Monterrey, a major regional industrial manufacturing center. As part of our activities there, Stanford has signed so far 2 MOUs of collaboration, one with the Tijuana Innovation Commission and another one with School of Engineering and Sciences of the Technological Institute of Monterrey. Sean is now leading a more ambitious project for Mexico in general. I'm sure he will talk about it in his remarks, and we are happy to contribute by supporting work on these 2 key talent and innovation clusters. Mexico Clean Economy 2050 was founded as a global development alliance led by Stanford University in partnership with the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. The generous support of Stanford donors and friends, as well as contributions from private sector partners, universities, research institutes, as well as non-governmental and civil society organizations. The period of that program ended in May. It started in April 2017, and now we are starting a new era as a Stanford project based at the Precor Institute for Energy and supported by our Bill Lane Center for the American West that includes Canada and Mexico as part of the regional studies. MC 2050 will continue to bring Stanford's knowledge base, research capacity, and insights of the broader Silicon Valley innovation ecosystem to Mexico in general, while serving as a neutral convener to advance innovative technological, business, policy, and social solutions to the regional and binational energy and environmental challenges. MC 2050 aims to inform the national policy design and implementation processes in Mexico in order to promote clean innovation and low carbon development in the United States-Mexico binational economy. We're now planning to expand our collaboration with other existing and emerging innovation regions and urban clusters in Mexico, while continuing to focus on creating a clean innovation and low carbon development partnership with states and cities along the Mexican side of the US-Mexico border. We're already in talks with the Secretary of Environment of Jalisco and with the Secretary of Economic Development and Innovation from the state of Chihuahua. So Enrique asked me to talk about change and opportunities. We believe that the decarbonization of the global economy to address climate change and the innovation cycles emerging from that process are full of business opportunities that can become an engine for regional and binational low carbon development. California is no doubt a leader in the implementation of a clean economy model, successfully decoupling economic growth from its carbon mitigation efforts, as well as generating new technologies, new business models, and policy solutions to enable such transition. We want to support Mexico by sharing this experience. California clean innovation is central to this process. MCE 2050 is supporting activities around energy systems transformations towards a net zero emissions future, sustainable transport and smart growth, smarter communities and infrastructure and innovation, as well as carbon policy and management to provide incentives to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in a cost-effective manner, as well as to foster innovation towards more resource-efficient industrial processes, investment in carbon removal technologies, as well as supplementary climate finance mechanism, raising funds from, for instance, from the carbon market and investments in natural climate solutions. Maybe you don't know, but Mexico on January 1st of this year jump-started its pilot program of a Mexican emissions trading system that will have an impact on how industry behaves in terms of carbon management. The other change, it's more recent, the COVID-19 crisis and national security considerations, mainly in the US, are forcing us to rethink the structure of global supply chains. The new realities present also opportunities to enhance the competitiveness of our regional economy. One of the goals of our program is to support, under the new USMCA agreement, the integration of safe and reliable supply chains that can provide the goods and services that the new clean economy demands. For instance, for the development of the next generation energy systems, there is a need for many components, from energy storage to smart grid IT systems and remote sensing capacities. All of these can be produced in North America with stronger IPR protection and geographical proximity, reducing business transaction costs. Another important opportunity is the regional realignment of the highly integrated conventional auto industry of North America as the smart and electric mobility markets expand. These are a few ideas and projects around these opportunities during this transformative time that we're working on. We're looking to expand our network of partners on both sides of the border and including Canada. So if you or your organization is interested in participating in any capacity in our project, please feel free to reach out. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend, Sean Randolph. Sean Randolph is Senior Director of the Bay Area Council Economic Institute, a public-private partnership of business, labor, government, and higher education that works to foster a competitive economy in California and the San Francisco Bay Area, including San Francisco, Oakland, and Silicon Valley. Dr. Randolph previously served as President and CEO of the Bay Area Economic Forum, which merged with the Bay Area Council in January 2008. As Director of International Trade of the State of California, where he developed trade strategy and directed international business programs to stimulate exports and introduce California companies to overseas markets. Before service with the state, he was Managing Director of the CSR Pacific Group, an international business consulting firm specializing in Asia and Latin America. And before that, served as International Director General of the Pacific Basin Economic Council, a 15-nation international organization of leading U.S., Asian, and Latin American corporations. His professional career includes extensive experience in the U.S. government, including the U.S. Congress staff and the White House staff. Dr. Randolph holds a GAD from Georgetown University Law Center and a PhD from Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, and a Bachelor's of Science in Foreign Service from Georgetown School of Foreign Service, and he conducted studies at the LSE in London. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Blas. And thanks very much, Enrique, for partnering with us on this program today. And bienvenidos a todos. As Blas mentioned, I run a think tank based in San Francisco that focuses primarily on the economy of the Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area in California. A lot of our focus, as you might imagine, is on technology and innovation and entrepreneurship and how that drives economies, including our own. And a lot of our work also focuses on how other economies are evolving in the same direction and the linkages between our region as the world's leading hub for technology, R&D, innovation, and entrepreneurship, how we connect with other important partners around the world. And today's event, where we're really pleased and honored to be able to partner with U.S.-Mexico Foundation, is part of that effort. And as Blas mentioned, we began this by working closely with his program, MCE 2050 at Stanford, looking at Tijuana, Baja California, and at Monterrey, looking at the innovation clusters there and what's the potential to link them more deeply with our own. And now we're into the larger project that's looking at all of Mexico. We're looking at it in particular through a lens of, again, technology, innovation, entrepreneurship, and how does Mexico's economy evolve in that direction, and what opportunities does that present for it to connect more deeply with our own. So we really want to change the narrative, if we can, about how people here think of Mexico, forget what's in the headlines sometimes, think about engineering and innovation and where Mexico is going in the future. And we're doing it not just nationally, as Blas said, but through the lens of particular states and particular cities where we think the opportunities are greatest. Cities and states where either our companies are most active today or where they could become more active in the future based on the kind of initiatives, the kind of assets and resources that are found in each one of those communities. And as reflected in the program today, those are Tijuana, Ciudad Juarez along our border, Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City. And we really want to drill in today to begin this discussion that will ultimately be reflected in quite a large report we'll release later this year or maybe very early next year that's looking at these opportunities. And the speakers today are our partners in this project. We deeply appreciate their engagement and their support and their being part of the program today in particular. So I'll briefly introduce each one, who they are, in order of speaking, and then I'll invite each one of them to make some remarks, their point of view from their city, and then we'll invite everybody to submit your questions for them that I will provide to the speakers. We have a lot of people in the program today, which is absolutely fantastic. So I'll try to funnel as many questions as we have time for to our speakers after they've delivered their remarks. So to begin, we'll start with Adriana Eguia, who is the commercial director for Baja California for Vesta. Vesta is a company which develops and operates industrial parks and facilities across Mexico, I believe in 14 different cities, including Baja California and Tijuana. She also serves on the board of the Tijuana Economic Development Corporation, and she's going to give a perspective from Tijuana. Following Adriana, we'll have Alvaro Bustillos, who is the chairman of Desarrollo Económico de Ciudad Juárez. Alvaro is an entrepreneur. He's the founding partner of Vaquero Trading, which is a large supplier of Mexican cattle to the United States. But in particular, for our conversation today, he's a leader across several organizations in the state of Chihuahua and in Juarez that are looking to promote innovation and entrepreneurship in the state and especially in the city. Following that, we'll hear from Emilio Cadena, the CEO of Grupo Prodensa. Emilio has more than 20 years of experience in promoting foreign investment into Mexico. Grupo Prodensa is a consulting company. It's helped hundreds of companies to locate establish manufacturing in Mexico. In addition to serving on the board of Mexico's Business Council, CCE, he also chairs our partner, the U.S.-Mexico Foundation. Following that, we're especially honored to have Ernesto Sanchez Peral, the Secretary of the Ministry of Economic Development of the state of Jalisco. He has a long history before his service in government. In business, he led the operation of 4 Mexican plants with 12,000 employees for Jabil Circuit, which is a leading global electronics manufacturer. And after that, became an entrepreneur, starting a range of companies in fields from tourism to energy to IT. And he'll be speaking with us, of course, about Jalisco and Guadalajara. And last but not least, of course, we'll hear from Bella Riamoy, the Director General of the Mexican Institute for Competitiveness. She'll be speaking from a Mexico City standpoint. The Institute is one of the leading think tanks on Mexico's economy. Valeria previously served as director of another leading think tank, Como Vamos, and she writes and speaks frequently for Mexican and international media on Mexico's economy. So this is an amazing lineup, a huge amount of expertise and depth. We're going to take advantage of that in the next hour or so. So perhaps if we could start with you, Adriana, and if you could share with us a perspective from Tijuana.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, everyone. Hi, good morning. Sure. I've been in economic development for the last 6 years, and it's a great pleasure to present Tijuana as a great city for investment. And I just wanted to start with a story. Probably you guys that are hearing the name Tijuana and going back 30 or 40 years, visited the city because of partying purposes, because of the casinos, because of the restaurants and the bars. And of course, I mean, when you're young, you're looking for this objective. But fast forwarding 40 years, we're talking about 2010, 2020, this city became a cosmopolitan one and a new hub for innovation and attraction of foreign direct investment. And I'm going to make my remarks starting with the where to whoever is listening to us and doesn't know where Tijuana is. We're the northwestern city in Mexico, located right by the border with San Diego, California. And we've been known, as Sean and Enrique and Blas said in the beginning, as a Cali Baja binational mega region. And talking to you about numbers, this great region has 7.1 million people. We have a combined GDP of $250 billion. And we're I mean, this is going to sound like marketing, but this is true. We're in the same hour as San Francisco, and we're the closest city to Silicon Valley, so that's a great advantage. And going to the what can you find in Tijuana? And that's why I have this really simple slide where you can find some of the key industries that we have been growing and we have been focusing on in order for us to bring investment. So it's aerospace and defense. We have one of the biggest clusters in Mexico. And I think our bread and butter, it's mostly the med device industry. We have now around 50,000 employees, 50 companies, more than North American. We supply most of the hospitals in the US. So this is one of the key industries that we're focusing on. And of course, automotive and electronics, a lot of people know us as a TV capital of the world, where we have Samsung as a great company. And I just want to make a very quick parenthesis here for Samsung. I don't know if you know, guys, that if you have a TV that is a Samsung brand, all of the apps and all of the programming is done here in Tijuana. So they have their own R&D innovation center inside the company. And so this is a great thing to showcase for us. And now jumping into the Innovation Hub. So software development has also been something that we've been promoting. The cluster has been growing yearly at an 11% rate. I mean, we've been growing in terms of companies coming to the market, and of course, looking at the great talent that we have. So that's why I'm going to focus also in this part. Talent, bilingual people, and of course, no longer seeing ourselves as a US background, but now as decision makers. I think it's really important for you to know some of the key stories of what has been happening. Plus, I mean, that we have more than 90 universities in the area, that we have more than 80 R&D centers in the area as well, and 35 investment funds. So we have almost everything for the hub to keep on growing. And we know that the links with Silicon Valley need to keep on nurturing and growing as well. So one of the logos that you can see here is Thermo Fisher Scientific. I think this is a great example for you to have in mind what can happen here between the Cali Baja region, San Francisco, and Tijuana. These guys around 4 years ago looked at the city, came to see what was happening, and because of the proximity with San Diego, they said, you know what, we're starting a company here, we're making a pilot program, we're bringing 5 programmers from all over the world just to see how it works. They started hiring people from Tijuana. They made a test to these programmers from the area. Most of the averages of the programmers in terms of their qualifications were around 9 and 9.5. Tijuana programmers averaged a 10. I mean, they were so good in terms of how they were performing that they said, you know what, let's start the project here in the city. Fast forwarding to year 2019, 2020, they started with 5 people. Now they're 300 programmers. They grabbed 3 floors from one of the key buildings here in the area. And now this is one of their key spots for their innovation and programming for the company. I wanted to wrap up really quickly with my presentation and my remarks. We've been visiting Silicon Valley for a lot of years, around 10 years, trying to promote this place as one of the key places for companies to either find talent, kickstart their startups, because we know that if they have a certain amount of capital and they burn their money really fast, of course, the company probably in 6 months would be crashing. So we know that if they bring their startup to Tijuana and probably kickstart the company here, their lifespan could be between 12 and 18 months. Start maturing the company and probably travel to San Francisco with an hour flight, either from the Tijuana International Airport or from San Diego. So this is one of the key examples that you need to keep in mind, that and we need to keep on nurturing in order for these bridges to keep on growing. So invest in Tijuana. That's it for me. Thank you so much, everyone. Sean, I think you're mute.
There, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, I actually grew up in San Diego, close to the border, and I did used to go down. I didn't party very much, but the Tijuana that I knew is quite different from today's. And when I visited for the first time in 2 decades, a year ago or 2 years ago now, I was amazed. There were research institutes in Ensenada, and it was really a remarkable change. So I think that's part of the effort we're looking at across the board in this project, is to try to update people's perceptions of cities in Mexico, to understand whatever the image was 5 or 10 or 20 years ago, there's something new going on today that they should be knowing about and excited about.
Exactly.
So thanks very much, Adriana.
Thank you, Sean.
Next, Alvaro, maybe you can share some thoughts about what's going on in Juarez.
Thank you, Sean. Well, hello to everybody. I want to thank Enrique and Sean for having me here. I'm Alvaro Bustillos. I want to talk a little about what we do in Chihuahua and at the border region. I'm going to talk in behalf of Economic Development Associations and our Borderplex community in El Paso. We're a nonprofit organization formed by the leadership of our state, where the top performing companies in Ciudad Juarez and Chihuahua, we form a business coalition formed in the 1980s for the purpose of transforming our region into a business community with a lot of opportunities and bring employment of quality to the city. So what we do is we're together in the purpose of influencing public policies that focus on improving the quality of life of the city. And I'm going to talk very quickly into several initiatives that we've been working throughout the last couple of years into putting Ciudad Juarez and our state in the map. The first of all, we want to tell you that we're the 4th largest manufacturing community in the world. We have representation of the 70 out of the Fortune 500 companies are established here in our region. And one of the best initiatives that we brought back to our community is that we're trying to work into developing an association organization called Chihuahua Economic Development Corporation. That organization is with the hand of our Secretary of Economic of Chihuahua, Alejandra de la Vega. She wants to give out the promotion to the private initiative where we can organize a consortium dedicated to create, promote, and execute strategies orientated to bring and increase the foreign direct investment in our region. As you know, Chihuahua today has come back very strongly after the pandemic, and we're now the 3rd largest receiving state of investment of foreign direct investment into Mexico. We want to follow up success stories like Ontario and Singapore, and it's going to be integrated by the private sector and coordinated as well with the state government. Members of this organization are going to become part of contribute into being part of industrial developers, shelters, brokers, construction companies, and service providers. Right now, we've done that initiative based on all the new opportunities that we're seeing in our in the map that U.S. and China have been into this war of between the two countries, and I think we have a great opportunity to bring some of those investments to Chihuahua. Second of all, I want to talk about we want to change our transformation, our economic model for our region. That's why we hired IDOM, which is a consulting firm that went and transformed cities like Medellin, Bilbao, that were heavily industrial cities and what have become part of what has brought new opportunities into bring value-added things to the region. Based on that, we've done a study that what the objective is to develop a long-term economic plan, implementing a smart specialization strategy in order to focus our efforts and resources on our strategic advantages as a region, maintaining our competitiveness in the global economy and in a sustainable manner. The project is expected to allow the region to strengthen its research and our innovation ecosystem, maximize knowledge flow, adoptions, and development of exponential technologies and tangible projects. One of the things that our Secretary of Innovation and Economic of the state of Chihuahua focus was really trying to emphasize our opportunities into bringing innovation and technology to our region. That's why we in Ciudad Juarez have had 3 centers for that we're gonna offer them to our economic city, that it's called the CITA, which is the Center for Innovation and Information of Advanced Technologies. And the other one is called the CIA, the Center for Artificial Intelligence, and CINIT, which is the Center for Molds and Troqueles. Based on that, that could offer us to become part of more integrated value-added chain into into some of the supply that we represent here for the industry of transformation. And based on that, we want to participate a lot more into being in that value chain for the companies that represent the region. Okay, based on that, I want to talk a little about competitiveness in Ciudad Juarez. As you know, we're the second largest port of export via highway. We're very integrated with Texas, and we want to become more integrated into some of these opportunities that California and Silicon Valley offer into becoming part of that our ecosystem. We're the first place in export manufacturing in jobs nationwide. We have one of the most sophisticated and technical workforce labors in the country, and over 300,000 jobs on that part. We're the second city with the most export manufacturing establishments in Mexico. 330 of those units are registered in the IMEX program. We're the seventh city with the best wages for full-time workers nationwide, and the second port with the greatest crossing of people into the US and Mexico. As well, we have the first place in input consumption in the export manufacturing sector in Mexico. You can see 700,000 million pesos annually into the region. And we're the second place in competitiveness within Mexico, according to INCO, which I know Valeria was gonna talk a little about that. And as well, we're the first place cities with less labor informality nationwide. As you know, we have 4 crossing ports. We have 5 business incubators, 5 design centers, and we have one of the highest communities of higher education students. As you know as well, we have the smallest unemployment in numbers in Mexico with 2.5%. And as well, we have a export market. We represent for Mexico 1.5% of their GDP. Ciudad Juarez as well represents 50% of the GDP for the state of Chihuahua. And we're one of the most dynamic and integrated business communities where a lot of our business leadership in the city participates and coordinates a lot of those efforts. We have one of the, I want to say this, emphasize this, that our business entrepreneurs here in our region are very constructive, participate very actively, and we are very coordinated with our Secretary of Innovation and Economic of the state of Chihuahua. Following that, just to put things into perspective, I think one of the things that where we want to migrate, talking about our economic model, is even though we have one of the lowest unemployment, we wanted to emphasize that we wanted to migrate from being a transformation industry into bringing more high value business into our region. Because even though we have one of the biggest employment capacities here in Ciudad Juarez, we want to bring higher wages and participate more in the value-added economic change for some of these companies. With that, I finished my participation, and I want to thank everybody for having us here, and I'm at your service. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alvaro. Next, we'll hear from Emilio Cadena. Emilio, tell us what's going on in Monterrey.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Thank you so much for having me here. First of all, I have to say that I have the luxury of having Prodensa offices in all the cities that we're discussing today. So for me, I think they are fantastic locations, extremely productive. They have been tremendous success stories for us. So we have Tijuana and Juarez, and certainly Mexico City, Guadalajara. But of course, Monterrey is where we were born. So I always say we have, even though I'm not from Monterrey, I'm from Hermosillo, Sonora, and grew up in Guadalajara. But I have to say I have Regio, Monterrey DNA in my business. And I'll try to talk a little bit about that. And that's why I believe Monterrey is ready to be one of these bridges that you're talking about on linking Mexico to Silicon Valley, as well as the other cities. I do think there are some things specific in Monterrey that put it on a very special situation. And I will talk about two main things. The first one is the community, and number two is real existing and happening initiatives today that can serve as the platform to make the most out of these bridges. And first on the community, let me talk about demographics, but I'm not gonna go into demographics on the usual data. I mean, it's the second in terms of numbers of years of education in Mexico. It's the most productive location in Mexico in terms of the labor, according to Mexico Como Vamos. So maybe Valeria cannot dispute me on this one. Is her number that I'm using. So 11,000 technicians graduating per year, almost 6,000 engineers graduating per year. But for me, the most relevant thing about Monterrey is that the new generation of young people that we have are passionate about technology, are passionate about innovation. So the link between Monterrey and Silicon Valley is gonna happen regardless of what the government, the community does, because this is what people love. We talked about this, about employment of choice. We know this is a challenge the US has, and it will be a challenge that Monterrey will have in the future, because every individual, every millennial in Mexico, and maybe, you know, next generation, centennial, or what you want to name them, is looking to be the next Google, the next Apple, the next PayPal, the next Intuit, the next, you name it. So I think they are looking forward on how to do it. And I think it's the same spirit that many years ago, that 100 years ago, with their fathers or grandparents or whatever, that started the industrial capital of Mexico, Monterrey. So I think it's this DNA of the Mexican, of the Regio, that is already there, ready to do it. And I think if we combine this with another issue that I know Enrique Perretta, the CEO of the foundation, is very passionate about, is the fact that we have more and more and more people living in Monterrey that are not from Monterrey. In 1988, when I started to live in Monterrey, it was new for somebody from Guadalajara to come and live in the city. But now we have people from Denmark, of course, from the US, we have people from China, we have people from Korea, we have people from Germany. So diversity is, I think, the new treasure of the city. When you put these two things together, I believe the demographics of the community are in the perfect place to take this next step and be the bridge. At the same time, if you look at, I'm going to talk from the demographic, from the business point of view, we have 13 different clusters. I believe it is probably the most diversified city in Mexico in terms of industries compared to the rest of the locations. So these 13 clusters going from aerospace and health and energy and biotech and nanotech, some of them very young, but I think very, very important. I think similar to what's happening maybe in Guadalajara. I compare it to Guadalajara. Very, very rich in terms of the diversity, which for me is demographics. And again, the capital and the culture of these companies making these clusters comes from many other places. And again, I think it's very important. Number three on the let me say demographics, I think the hard working culture of Monterrey, it's contagious. It just is a get it done type of mentality. From the desert, you're saying we have to make sure that we get this done. And I think it's extremely important for this type of transformations, this part of the mentality. And last, on this part of the community, I would say that it's a Regios love Monterrey more than anything else. They would always say that is the best place in the world. And I think this kind of love for the community, I have to say I sense it, for example, in Ciudad Juárez, El Paso, maybe on a binational community better than any other place. But talking about not a binational community, but a local community, I think Regios are extremely proud. They love the role that Monterrey has played in the history of Mexico as the industrial capital of the Mexican industry. Now, I think combined and rich with international companies. And I think this is also very important. And what I sense, it's a new generation saying we're ready to have like a quantum leap of this story that was based on industry to say, now we want to be also the face of innovation and technology. So I think, again, community is going to be the first reason why Monterrey will be one of these bridges to Silicon Valley, as well as the other locations. And then the second thing that I want to say is, I think we have existing initiatives in the city with the right players to build the ecosystems that are not 30,000 feet ideas, but are realities. When I moved there in 1988, not 98, 88, long time ago, but then started to work. I was always impressed by the Monterrey business community, that they were always willing to pay and invest for high-level consulting, international consulting, in order to build good plans, and then combined with the execution mentality, they seem to always make progress, okay? And I think it was reflected on the companies that are from Monterrey, but then on the communities. And I think there are two initiatives that are built with this strength that I love. The first one is 3 years old, is this Nuevo León 4.0, which is this initiative to build the ecosystem for the intelligent economy of the future in Monterrey. It has the government, academia, industry, entrepreneurship, and I think very important integrated there, the capital side, to make sure that there is funding, the right type of funding, which I think is one of the most important things in Mexico to make this happen. Again, focus on cloud, robotics, Internet of Things, big data, advanced materials, nanotechnology, etc. I really like the initiative. I think it's, they already have projects, and they have projects, but they also have the things around projects that build culture, certifications, educational programs. I love the fact that they have an ethics platform for this initiative, because I think the ethics of technology is going to be one of the important things that we need to manage. So I think this is one initiative that for me makes me feel that we are ready to take that jump. And number two, and I'm going to talk about my alma mater, Monterrey Tech. I love the Distrito Tech project, as well as PIT, which is this Parque de Investigación e Innovación Tecnológica. But I love the fact that Monterrey Tech came up with this wow idea after closing its gates based on some issues that we had around 2010-11, saying, you know, we have to rethink what does it mean to be the university, or one of the key, but I think it's of course, you know, one of the trademarks of the city. And they open up and they have designed this project, which is called Distrito Tech, because I think when you put all this idea, all this ecosystem, but also the geographical locations where you can meet, have coffee, interact, relate to people that are part of the ecosystems, it's a guarantee that this is going to happen. I hope that we can continue to connect the dots. I hope that we can drive this with projects and with reality to the next phase. And so I'm optimistic about Monterrey as a player on this relationship with Silicon Valley, as well as with the other cities, I have to say, just trying to give some of the differentiators that I believe are in Monterrey. Thanks, Sean.
Well, thanks very much, Emilio. And let me remind everybody in our audience that if you have questions for anybody on the panel or for everybody on the panel, please submit them through the chat function, and we'll flow them through to our speakers. So next, we're really privileged to hear from Secretary Sanchez Proal from Jalisco. Secretary Sanchez Proal, maybe you could tell us what's going on in Guadalajara in particular. I know there's a huge flow of activity between Silicon Valley and Guadalajara, more than any place else in Mexico. There are obviously reasons for that. Maybe you could give us some of the landscape.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, of course. Thank you very much. And hello to everyone. It's an honor to be here in this panel representing the state of Jalisco. And I will talk a little bit about Jalisco and Guadalajara specifically. The state of Jalisco is the third largest economy in Mexico. We have a GDP of roughly $80 billion. Maybe our biggest advantage here is our economic diversity. We are very similar to California in that sense. We are very strong agricultural sector, very strong agro-industry, also very strong tourism sector, and specifically what makes us similar to the Bay Area in California, I believe, is our advanced manufacturing and then design and development. I would also like to mention that the similarities to California also include cultural similarities, not only economic, but also cultural similarities in the sense that the people here are very forward-thinking, open-minded, so sort of a more liberal society. Our governor has also a very, how can I say that, mindset of being close to business and open market mentality. And he has instructed us in the cabinet to be very, very close to business. So the combination of all this makes a great environment for advanced technology. Specifically in terms of talent, we graduate every year 15,000 engineering graduates. About half of them are high-tech engineering and 3,500 in TI. So this very important input for high-tech is being produced here in these numbers. The diversity of our economy, as I mentioned, has been a key factor in our resilience during economic crisis. We believe that we will be out of this new crisis and a very, I would say, problematic period in our economic history. We will be out in a much better shape than other regions. And our advanced manufacturing and IT services industries are definitely what will be the main tractors to get us in a much better shape sooner than other areas. We as a state have developed an economic strategy based on 4 axes. Probably the main of them is the state energy plan. I will talk a little bit about that in a minute. We also have the task of making this state the logistics hub of Mexico. We have a specific strategy to develop the electric vehicle industry, the supply chain of the electric vehicle, and the digital transformation of all industries, specifically the small and medium-sized companies. We want to have them on the digital era as soon as possible. We have evolved from being much more agricultural and commercial economy to this advanced manufacturing and design and innovation ecosystem. The advanced manufacturing industry has over 80,000 employees. The export industry has about 200,000 employees. And we have the design centers here of very big companies, some of them from California. Intel has a design center. They're developing chips here. They have about 1,000 engineers. Oracle has a very big design center here with programmers making code for databases, about 2,000 engineers. Also, European companies from the automotive industry, such as Continental and Bosch, are developing technology here. They are registering their patents right here from Guadalajara. And all this makes a very positive feedback loop with our universities preparing more engineers in specific areas. About our state energy plan, I like to talk a little bit about that because of how we started this seminar. The state energy plan has 4 main areas, starting with energy efficiency, then electricity. We still need to deal with hydrocarbons, so it has a chapter also on fossil fuels, but it defines a strategy to transition to clean energy, and of course, a chapter dedicated to sustainable energy development. We are also preparing a state energy law because we want these clean energy initiatives to be safe in our state. So over the past 5 years, we have received about $1 billion in investments for clean energy, photovoltaic and the wind. And we have another $2 million for the next 3 years in planned projects, which we are supporting to be established here. We have a lot of sun and a lot of wind. The state energy plan also emphasizes the need to have a technology for the smart grid and storage for these renewable energy projects. So with all that, we have been very close with California, with your energy agency there. And also, as far as the advanced manufacturing and development, we have been visiting the Silicon Valley area every year with the governor for the last 10 years or so. So we believe that this relationship with Silicon Valley should be strengthened. We believe that we can reach very interesting synergies, which we are already reaching right now with your companies, taking advantage of our talent here, and also our company startups taking advantage of the risk capital, venture capital in California that is fueling even more innovation here. I believe that we're now like, Guadalajara is now like a neighborhood of San Francisco. We have all these very close connections. So thank you very much, and you're welcome to Guadalajara and Jalisco. We also have very good tequila. So we like to have you guys here. Thank you.
Secretary Sanchez-Perual, thank you very much. A lot to talk about in Guadalajara. And we're going to hear now from Valeria Moy, and she'll talk to us a bit about the perspective from Mexico City.
Thank
Valeria.
you. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to make a kind of a disclaimer. The presentation I'm going to show you has the format of IMCO, which is the think tank I work for, but I'm also a member of Corazon Capital, and I think it should have been better if I presented this on the format of Corazon Capital so that you get to know what Corazon Capital is. Corazon Capital is small, and I say small because it's relatively new, a group of basically businessmen and investors that want or are interested to promote Mexico City, to promote not only the beauties or the cultural arena of Mexico City, but to promote investment in Mexico City. Corazon Capital is formed by investors, big, small, kind of everything. And it has a very good relationship with the current administration. Believe me, it has not been an easy effort, but we talk hand in hand with the administration of Mexico City in order to promote investment and to promote best practices in the economic arena of the city. Not only the economic arena, now we are playing as Corazon Capital a role in the reactivation program regarding what's going on with the pandemic, of course. So we are building these bridges between the private sector and the government, which usually are in some occasions rather rigid. I don't know if you have the presentation somewhere. There it is. Okay, I'm gonna go really fast because I don't want to take more time than the one that I have allotted. Please, the next one. Well, this is an index that measures the operating and labor cost in Mexico City. Querétaro, Guadalajara, and Monterrey rank higher than Mexico City. So there's a cue for you, Ernesto, all that are talking about these cities, Emilio, of course, and Querétaro, which of course is a great city. I'm not here to talk about Querétaro, but Querétaro, I think it's a great city regarding investment and innovation. But Mexico City ranks very well if you compare it to other cities that are comparable to Mexico City, as Istanbul, Santiago, Sao Paulo. It's easier to work in Mexico City than to work in those cities, as this index shows. The higher in the index, the better. The following one, please. It has some advantages here in this specific regards. The data that I'm taking into consideration here comes from the World Bank, the Doing Business Index 2020. This index, and this is important for me to say, it takes into consideration Mexico City and Monterrey. The one that separates them is the subnational index that is not being done by the World Bank in this occasion. So Mexico City ranks very high in getting credit, in revolving insolvency, and enforcing contracts. You might think that being a 43rd place out of 180 is not that very good, but if you compare that to other places or to other cities in Latin America, that is actually pretty good. The following one. The following one. This is an index that the IMCO does. It's called the State Competitiveness Index, and it has just been presented a couple of months ago. And it presents that Mexico City is the most competitive of all the cities in the country, especially given these three factors: the economic stability of the city, the infrastructure, and financial city. Bear in mind that basically all the financial system of the country is based in Mexico City. I'm not saying that it does not have other places in the country. Of course, Mexico is a very large country, but it's ranked the first as infrastructure and financial system in the country. And innovation, the best universities, or I'm not saying only the best, but some of the best universities and colleges in Mexico, Emilio's laughing here, some of the best universities and colleges in Mexico, así dame, Emilio, are based in Mexico City. So that gives you a current supply of very relevant and very intelligent talent for the country. Emilio was talking a lot about youngs and millennials. Well, of course, you know that the youngs and millennials are based here in Mexico City. Yes. Emilio, stop laughing. You're making me nervous. But well, Mexico City, you might know, is the first one in ranking in economic stability and financial system, and of course, innovation. This is how Mexico City ranked in the State Competitiveness Index that the IMCO does. It was the highest one. Of course, it's the highest one given that in Mexico City, many of the issues are based here in the country, and that makes Mexico City an interesting city to invest and to promote. La que sigue, porfa. This is an issue that has been growing and has been changing a lot. And I bet that if I give this presentation or if I talk about this in a couple of years' time, this will have changed. As the country itself has changed. If I were giving this presentation, I don't know, 20 or 25 years ago, I wouldn't have imagined that Mexico City would have been producing, you know, parts for spaceships or parts for big and important airplanes. That would have been completely out of my mindset. But the country has changed enormously and is changing. And the way we're seeing that Mexico City is developing is very interesting. We are building some startups hubs in the city. The city is very big as well. So within the city, we have small or largest hubs of innovation and development. And some of them are very close to universities, not only private universities, but also public universities. So there's a very interesting mix of talent and of people in Mexico City, given this combination of factors, given colleges, given private colleges, given public colleges. And I think that makes a very interesting melting pot in the city. The following one, please. So the Innovation Cities Index places Mexico City as the 87th most innovative city. And you say, well, 87 is not that very high, but out of 500, it's a lot. Mexico City ranks higher than other similar cities like Rio de Janeiro or Santiago or Bogota, even Monterrey and Guadalajara. So Mexico City is moving forward. I think this will change and will keep changing because population is changing. This demographic boost is still going on. And of course, we receive a lot of talent from other parts of the country. The city itself is a hub, a melting pot of cultures, of people, of different cultural backgrounds, or even different socioeconomic stratus that for Mexico is very important. La que sigue. So that's basically it, Mexico City. What can I tell you? Of course, it's full of museums, full of the cultural arena, concerts, that everything is stopped right now. But I think Mexico City is one of the greatest cities to live in Mexico and to invest in Mexico.
Thanks very much, Valeria. So that was a terrific perspective from 5 of the most important, most innovative cities in Mexico. And we're going to dive into some questions now. And we've got a bunch. Since you just finished, Valeria, we'll start with you. And the question is, since I think national government policies have not lately been particularly supportive of innovation or entrepreneurial activity, how do you at Corazon Capital work with local government to advance those agendas?
Well, definitely. That has been very difficult in the country. The president himself is not very keen on promoting, you know, technology or scientific knowledge. But given that, the chief of the government, the governor of Mexico City, Claudia Sheinbaum, is rather different in that regard. She's a scientist herself, so she believes, I mean, I know they're from the same political party and I know they have some differences, of course, but given her own background, she's a scientist and she believes in the advances of technology and of the advances of science. So for example, what they're doing in the government, within the government, they created this digital agency within the government that has changed all the red tape that you have to go through to build a firm, or even to get, you know, your passport, or even simpler things. Now you can do everything digitally on your own computer. So given that, the country is very different from the city, or the policies that the president says, or the things that he believes, is very different of the things that are happening, from the things that are happening within Mexico City. So yes, the president himself is not very keen on technology, but Claudia Sheinbaum, the chief of government, she is, and she's promoting investment in this regards. Actually, the motto or the logo that she has imposed on the city is City of Innovation. So she's doing things in this regard, regardless of what the president says on the topic.
Thanks very much. There's a related question that I could direct to anybody who'd like to take it up, or everybody. So since ProMéxico and INADEM are no longer with us, has that affected the tech industry in your cities? And how have you adjusted or dealt with those agencies not being available to support your innovation agendas? That's for anybody.
May I?
Please.
Thank you very much. So two things that we're doing in Jalisco. First of all, we hired the former ProMéxico manager for the region as our foreign investment attraction director. So we have the methodology and the connections from ProMéxico local. And we have been pursuing a very aggressive agenda of attraction of foreign investment, and also developing of local companies in terms of innovation. Also, number two, we are working together with other states in the country, specifically with two regions, with the Bajío region, similar-minded states, similar industrial orientation, Aguascalientes, San Luis Potosí, Guanajuato, and Querétaro, and Jalisco, in this alliance. And we are sharing strategies and reaching synergies to promote our region and to attract investments to the region, sharing supply chains, etc. And the other is the new alliance with the states from the north, including Nuevo León, but also other states in the north of the country. It's called the Federalist Alliance. And we're also working in economic development strategies together with those states. So at the state and regional level, we are doing this work to try to replace what ProMéxico was doing. And I think that in Jalisco, we have been successful since the first 6 months of this year. We have already attracted the same amount of foreign direct investment that the whole last year, the whole 2019. So that's what we're doing here in Jalisco.
Anybody else want to comment on that? Please, Emilio.
I think it's a big challenge, Sean. If I look at the IMD competitiveness ranking from Switzerland, on digital ranking, the US is #1, Mexico is number 49, okay? And with this, I'm going into this question saying, yes, promotion of investment is extremely important. I think the states are going to play an important role. I think the private sector is extremely efficient on attracting of investment because, as I said, it has the relationships and it's interested on making the business happen. So I think the states are good for opening doors and sending the message. And I think the private sector is like the closer of the deal, right? At the end of the day, the business wants to know who they're going to be dealing with in Mexico. But I have to say that all of these cities and all Mexico has a big challenge because we have a big gap on competitiveness when it comes to technology, innovation, infrastructure compared to the United States. and different to the industrial area where maybe the labor side is more important than the logistics and others, I think we are in for a big challenge. So my comment is, I think it's extremely interesting what the states are doing. We're being part of that initiative with the states. A new agency being formed in Monterrey, where the private sector is part of the founding members of the initiative, as Alvaro is running Juarez. But we need to make sure that we actually make Mexico more competitive. And these cities are not the average of Mexico, but we're certainly still far away from competing in terms of the ecosystem and the infrastructure and the competitiveness, as Valeria's numbers were showing. It's hard for us to compete to Silicon Valley. I mean, we are extremely, extremely far behind, and not only to compete, but to be together, because sometimes the gap is big. So I do think that together with the promotion that we can do and attracting of investment, we have to make sure that we have a national digital agenda that I do not see it at the level of complexity and integration that I believe we should have. I'm going to be a little bit critical about this. Sorry, but I think we have to be candid about the position where we are, and these cities are doing very well. And technology is going to be the biggest social differentiator in the future. We are in for a ride if we don't do something big with the other cities in Mexico, and also with the cities that we're talking about today.
Thanks, Emilio. Anybody else?
Me.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Piggybacking with Emilio's comment, I think he's totally right. And I think that opens a place for opportunities. We know that even though we have this gap, there's a possibility for us to promote or to have new initiatives. And I think one key thing is for us to promote talent, either talent attraction or talent formation. A couple of years ago here in Tijuana, we started a program. We saw what everybody was doing in Latin America. And one thing that we thought it was great was a tech visa in Chile. And Mexico doesn't have a tech visa by itself. We can bring international people inside Mexico, but the opportunity that we have here, I think for all of the cities by the border and of also Jalisco, is that in the US, we know that visas are really, really scarce for people that need to come from China or from India or from wherever you want. So the key place for them to bring them will be Mexico, and by the border cities, that would be great in order for us to help out this innovation companies that are probably in Texas or in the Silicon Valley area by promoting this type of program. So as Emilio said, yes, there's a huge gap, but also a place for opportunities and to promote this type of initiatives.
Please, Alvaro.
Thank you. Yeah, just constructing over some of these comments, as I mentioned on my brief comment, that that's why Chihuahua has been doing a lot of efforts to bring the private initiative, because they're the most innovative part into integrating some of these efforts to bring higher talent. That's why we want to migrate, even though we're very proud of having the maquiladoras and the transformation, but we need to participate more in their value chain. We, like in Chihuahua, we only participate 2% of that integration is of services. So that's why we are very close with them and talking into knowing what else, what other industries can we bring into integrating in their value chain. As you know, we have the clusters like the automobile, the aerospace. We even created the biomedical. Those are big industries that we need to bring to our state. And even now with Alejandra, we passed the innovation law where some of these projects and efforts need to be funded by the state budget. And as you know, we have had a big rhetoric with the federal government where they keep on restricting the funds to some of these states' initiatives. So at the end, I think also constructing on Adriana's comment, I think the potential is there with some of these bringing talent visas into our border region where we can integrate. We're very close to the biggest economies of the world, like Texas, California. We need to see how we can integrate more into them. Like now we're seeing in Texas, Tesla moving one of their plants to Austin. We are very close to them. We need to see where we need to participate with them. So that's on my side.
Terrific. Anybody else? It's a big question. Actually, it does focus on why we're doing this particular project out of San Francisco, where it's a bit of a disadvantage for Mexico. We've analyzed a lot of other countries, whether across Europe or Singapore, or Japan, Canada, and essentially every government at the national level has a pretty aggressive and well-defined policy to support entrepreneurs and accelerate innovation. And at the moment, it seems Mexico doesn't have that as a tool or an asset, but that's why we're really focusing on the cities, because we do find really innovative and forward-looking city and state leadership across Mexico, which is not unlike the US. And in the end, when a company from Silicon Valley or anywhere, goes to a country, they're going to the country, but they're going to a particular city with particular human capital assets or infrastructure assets, which we think right now is the most promising way to look at Mexico. And as a footnote, we actually are, maybe not to the same degree of depth, taking a look at what is going on in El Bajío, as well as Mérida. So we're looking to really encompass everywhere in Mexico where we think, even if there may not be a large Silicon Valley Bay Area presence yet, there could be in the future. We have another question. Again, this is a bit of a tough one, but I think we just need to raise it, that there is a widespread perception of insecurity in Mexico. Certainly a lot of people here who read just the headlines would come away with maybe some uneasiness about doing business in Mexico, but we know a lot of our companies are in Mexico and doing very well. So how would you address this question of the perception of insecurity, and how does it affect competitiveness or your efforts to kind of increase competitiveness in Mexico? That's for anybody.
I can take a stab at it, Sean, if you want. I think it's a critical aspect. I think for this industry specifically, or to thrive in Mexico, we need three components. One is security, linked to the second one that I would say is quality of life, and number three, infrastructure, as Alvaro was saying, because we have the opportunity, because we have the talent, and we are in the same time zone to bring people to our communities. Again, we've been talking on the U.S.-Mexico Foundation to some states. I know we talked about Puerto Vallarta, a fabulous place to live and to work, and now with the pandemic, home office and all that, I do think that there is a big possibility for this, for Mexico to capitalize on this. But you need to make sure that people feel safe, okay, and comfortable for living in our country. And I do think I think averages are evil, but on the other hand, I have to say that it is a perception and it is a reality that we are not where we have to be in terms of security. And having this plan and an activity, I would have to be critical of the government, and talking about the federal government and some of the states too. I don't want to generalize. I think Ernesto and Jalisco is trying to do the best they can. It's a tough problem. We need a collective effort to do it, but we need to make sure that we do something about it, because as the opportunity is there, the opportunity is also there for Mexicans to go to other places and be part of this community and live on a place where they feel safe. So I think this is why I believe this is a moment in time when we have to make some tough decisions. We have to make some structural changes on the overall competitiveness. And I think the quality of life is one of them. If not, we are going to have a loss of talent, of people going to other places to say, I'm going to go to live in Canada, or which I think they're doing a good job, or other places where people feel safe and welcome.
Thanks.
Ernesto, thank you. So two things. First, security is a number one priority here of the state government. The governor has every day at 7 a.m. a meeting with his security cabinet. So he's putting that on the first place. For Jalisco, he restructured the security cabinet with a coordinator, and he's making sure that we base our security strategy much more on intelligence rather than brute force. So he's working locally, and he's also working with the federal government to collaborate specifically on the security area. But also, that's number one. Also, we also believe that one of the best strategies to fight security issues is also economic development. When you have more well-being, people are less fond to join the criminal organizations. People would prefer to have a job less risky. So we're working in both areas, but yes, I recognize that's an issue that companies bring. That's something that we're working very close also in individual cases with individual companies. We in the economic development area get involved in specific cases with the security cabinet to solve specific problems from companies. And one of the main actions that we do is have a very close communications with the private sector. We work very close with them and try to solve problems, and then to prevent problems based, as I mentioned, much more on information, on intelligence than on brute force.
Thank you. Alvaro.
Thank you, Sean. In Chihuahua, what we do is we're, instead of sitting back and trying to wait for the government to take some action, we have set up a trust that's called FICOSEC, which is a tax that all the private initiative we put on our companies. We levy that tax to do initiatives that work toward the insecurity effects that we have in our state. So at the end, we're very active, very coordinated with our forces and our law representatives to take some action and do counterbalance these efforts into having a very more competitive in the actions that we promote and how we give it to our companies. So at the end, this trust it's a trust that's managed by the private initiative, where we put a tax on ourselves just to promote projects and initiatives that help counterbalance the insecurity of the state of Chihuahua.
Thank you. You know, what we see around the world is very often when cities or countries are looking to kind of accelerate innovation or support entrepreneurial development, including developing homegrown companies, homegrown entrepreneurs that achieve scale. There's often an effort between, say, the city or the state government, the local business community, but also universities, which play such a key role in both supporting entrepreneurs and developing that trained workforce of engineers, and sort of working with the business community on their needs. So in your cities, and this, I know it's probably a bigger question that we have time for, how is that dialogue coming together between state or city leaders with universities and the entrepreneurial community and business to have a sort of a directed approach that kind of could accelerate the trends you're trying to achieve? That's for anybody. Adriana.
Thank you. Yeah, I know that some private universities like CETIS Universidad here locally have their specific programs that are focused mostly in the entrepreneurial mindset. And we have an economic development agency called CDT, Consejo de Desarrollo Económico de Tijuana, which is the one that is linking companies directly with the universities and programs with the rest of the companies that are settled here in the city. Plus some little programs regarding entrepreneurship, acceleration, and innovation that are coming again as a trend and as a pace because of what's happening in the rest of the world. And I know that the pandemic has kind of stopped for a little bit this type of programs, but there, as I said, I'm always looking for the right side and for the glass half full. This has given an open for new opportunities, and I've seen that Mexico was kind of lagged in terms of digital commerce, etc. And now both universities and commerces are looking to start working together in order for them to fast forward their processes and keep on the pace of what's happening right now, and in order for them to stay in business. So those are a couple of things that I've been seeing here locally. And of course, some programs also focused in helping kids since a young age to start with their entrepreneurial mindset. So that's kind of the things that we're looking with, little things that has happened because of the opportunity of the pandemic.
Thanks, Adriana. We do have a question also. I don't know whether this falls in your wheelhouse or not, but it's about whether cities are having any success promoting, say, digital content, digital media, film. I know that there's been quite a bit of success with Baja Studios, south of Tijuana, and a cluster developing around that, around digital content that connects into California in particular, not far from Hollywood.
Yeah.
Is that something you focus on?
Yes, there's a lot to do still. It needs to evolve, it needs to mature. And yes, Baja Studios have been playing a role in order for them to bring filming into Baja, but also some companies that are here in the area that work directly with LA in order for them to do video gaming programming and content for movies, for Pixar and others. So yeah, the answer is yes, but we need a lot more in order for them to mature.
Thanks. And then probably one very last question. I think before we wrap up, we have only 3 minutes for this one, so I'll be quick. When we look at some trends now, there have been some questions on this. People are moving out of some big cities like San Francisco. More people will be working, especially in tech, more remotely. I've heard folks say, well, you could work from Puerto Vallarta and be on a plane to San Francisco if you want to come. You could work from Merida. You could work from almost anywhere in the future. And then also we see with USMCA, and this was mentioned at the beginning of the program, that global supply chains are shifting. There's going to be more and more attention in the future on secure production, secure supply lines. And of course, with USMCA being in place now, the timing is really terrific to sort of attract more investment into a more integrated economy in North America. So we don't have time for long questions, but if anybody would like to comment on the opportunity you see with USMCA and global supply chain shifting and remote work to kind of put a brighter light on the opportunities in Mexico. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much. So not only USMCA, but also the geopolitical situation between China and the USA are bringing great opportunities. So I believe that what is needed, we have in place, and not only in Jalisco, I believe that also the other regions present have that, which is already advanced manufacturing, talent in place, capacity, and the logistics advantage of being close to the USA, plus this new confidence that this trade agreement brings with that. So basically, that is bringing a lot of interest to the region. As I mentioned, in Jalisco, we met the target for the year in the first 6 months, equal foreign direct investment than previous year, and about 60% of that is in manufacturing, talking about the realignment of global supply chain. So great opportunity. We should take advantage of that, but we need to give these foreign investors confidence. We need to have not only the USMCA in place, but also we talk about security, we are talking about federal government, energy availability with competitive prices, etc. That's why in Jalisco we're working on this structure, and we're being noticed, and the investments are coming over here.
Emilio.
Yeah, I'll just make a brief comment on that. I think the opportunity is there, but I think we need to design the policy in order to make that potential a reality. And that's where I think there is regionally, first of all, when we were negotiating USMCA, first thing we noticed was how little we know about each other. So I think the fact that you're doing this with the US-Mexico Foundation is a step forward on that side. we need to understand us much better. We need to understand why we need to be together and why it makes sense. And then the governments on both sides need to understand what we're talking about. I don't think we have more films being made in Mexico because I don't think the government understands the industry, and immediately they're looking at how you collect the taxes instead of how you make the industry thrive. And then, of course, and at the same time, you're going to generate taxes. I don't think the governments understand SMEs, for example. We continue to talk about it. There's chapter on USMCA, but I think we've been talking about small and medium-sized enterprises for the last 30 years, and really nothing substantial has happened because I don't think they understand it. And I think this is the challenge with technology, Sean. And I think this falls on the private sector. Technology, this digital transformation of the world, is hard to explain to people. What does it mean? Big data, cloud computing, internet as a service and software as a service and artificial intelligence. And then I don't think the government understands this at a decent level. I think the level of understanding is, and I think in both sides, by the way, it's very, very low, and it's very dangerous. As we said with USMCA, if the people drafting policy for the bilateral relationship have never been to Guadalajara, Tijuana, Mexico City, and the people in Mexico City have never been to Tennessee and Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Minnesota, then it's extremely dangerous how we draft policy. So I think the level of education, and we need to do it quick, on all the stakeholders on what technology means, on what entrepreneurship means, it's a must in order for us to be successful in this initiative, and we don't have a lot of time. I think Asia is doing a much better job understanding this than the West is, and I think this is a big challenge that we have in front of us, for all of us to come together and work in the same objective.
Thanks, Emilio. A very, very important point. Well, I think, unfortunately, we're out of time. We could go on about a lot of other topics we didn't dive into here, maybe on another occasion, like how do you accelerate the growth of homegrown companies led by entrepreneurs so they get to scale? How do you accelerate local IP production so there's more value added, more R&D taking place locally? How do you help it so that engineers aren't just being recruited, say, from Monterey by tech companies in the Valley, but the companies are putting activities in cities like Monterey and elsewhere. So there's a lot of topics we can explore, and the report will go into this. So I really look forward to hearing from everybody as we go deeper on those topics. But I think, Emilio, your point about digitization is really important, because Silicon Valley, if it's about one thing, it's about digitalization, everything. And it affects every industry, and really the focus on digitalization drives very much how our companies look at the world and the opportunities, whether it's in IoT or FinTech or what the entrepreneurial community is doing. That's an important lens, and it's not unique to us. It's very intense for us, but I think it's really true for any economy in the world to have that as a key focus of policy, whether it's Mexico or the US or elsewhere. So with that, I'm going to tie off the panel and want to thank everybody on the panel for being absolutely terrific and for sharing your insights, a longer conversation, and we look forward to working with you as we finalize this report with the US-Mexico Foundation and some other key partners. But to close the program, again, I want to thank Enrique and his team and hand it over to Remedios Gomez Arnau, the Consul General of Mexico in San Francisco.
Thank you, Sean. Well, first of all, I want to convey the apologies of my ambassador, who really wanted to be in this webinar, but she had to deal with last-minute issues. So on behalf of the Mexican Embassy and the Mexican Consulate in San Francisco, I want to extend the thanks to the organizers of this webinar. And I especially want to commend the work of Shonda Randolph through the Bay Area Council Economic Institute and the work he's been doing to update the portrait of Mexico here in the Silicon Valley and the Bay Area region, and to help change the narrative about our country. And I think that the presentations today have been great. as to show how Mexico has been transforming, how we have cities and economic regions that are working to promote more businesses that are more in high tech, but also addressing the questions about the role of the federal government and the president. I want to say that precisely part of this transformation that has Mexico been going on is that the federal government has to lay the right foundation for businesses to prosper. And as we already have the USMCA, that, by the way, the federal government has been very supportive of it, participated in the negotiations before even taking office, and that has highlighted how important it is because it's opening new opportunities in areas of high tech, like a digital area, but also that wants to bring opportunities for small and medium enterprises and for startups. I think it's a clear signal that the groundwork and the foundation that wants to establish is there. Because unfortunately, even though we've been going ahead in modernizing sectors of the economy, we also need to look into issues like security that are very linked to socioeconomic issues that we are carrying on from the past. So what the federal government is concentrated right now is to bring like 50% of the population that is on the poverty line to the table. That's very important because that also is feeding the security problem that we are facing now. So if we bring together, and we need to work all together, federal, state, and of course the private enterprises together, along with the counterparts here in the United States, I think that will be the best way to continue working together. We have proved that we are a trustworthy partner after 25 years of the free trade agreement, and also now with the new opportunities that USMCA is opening. So again, I want to thank the organizers of the webinar, especially the US-Mexico Foundation and the Bay Area Council Economic Institute. And just to let you know that the consulates are here to help. If anyone has any need of more details about opportunities in Mexico, that's why the Mexican consulate in San Francisco and the 49 Mexican consulates in the United States are here for. So you can reach us out and we will try to help the best we can.
Thank you, Remedios, and thanks very much, everybody in the audience and on our very distinguished panel for participating. We look forward to staying in touch as this project advances. And thanks very much to our friends at the US-Mexico Foundation for pulling us all together.